With over 40 years under its belt, Microsoft is the multinational tech company that's also become a household name and staple of computing evolution. The brains and face of Microsoft, Bill Gates, is now consistently one of the richest men in the world since 1987. Starting with a dream of a computer on every desk and in every home, here's Bill Gates' take on the next 40 years in technology. First off, let's talk about where it all began with IBM and Microsoft. Now, Bill Gates is undoubtedly the most successful consumer technology and software provider in the world. The well-known entrepreneur and philanthropist has also been an advocate for the power of technology for the longest time, and he's proven his dedication along the way. It all started with the first issue of PC Magazine in 1982, which featured a 26-year-old ambitious man, Bill Gates, who set out to cross headlines after partnering with IBM for his PC project. Passionate with a rather ambitious idea, he embedded the concept of the personal computer, which now, after 4 decades of technology evolution, has become a necessity we can't seem to function without. And when a trip on the nostalgia train wasn't enough, let's take you back to when David Bunnell, the then recently appointed editor-in-chief and publisher of PC Magazine, traveled to Seattle to interview none other than Bill Gates, the president and co-founder of a little software business called Microsoft. From what we know, Bunnell's purpose for the exclusive interview was to learn a little more about Microsoft and how the software company has contributed to the development of the pioneering IBM PC. And while we're all a bit nostalgic when we go down memory lane, Bill Gates was not any different. In the recent interview 4 decades later, he talked about how much fun it was for him and his team to work with IBM, and how rewarding it was to be a part of it as the two companies collaborated together. He also mentioned their form of communication, which was typically an earlier version of the email. Not so fancy now, is it? Bill Gates even went on about the gritty details of how the hardware and software were developed together. Moving on. How has technology affected our lives? Remember the unflattering huge 16-bit beige box set in one corner of our homes back in the 1990s? After 4 decades packed with the craziest technological advancement we've ever seen, we've come a long way from those huge heavy box-like computers to the sleek, elegant gadgets we have today. The PC was also just one tiny slice of the technology that has changed the way we work and exist. In the 40 years from the first personal computer to the world where even kids have to get their own gadgets, we've come a long way with a wider range of technological success. Just think about it. Phones, VR headsets, smartwatches, digital health and fitness gear, electric cars, smart home devices. The list seems endless, and it really is. But that was all for the interview in 1982. Now, the newly appointed editor-in-chief of PC Magazine, Wendy Sheehan Donnell, decided to catch up with Bill Gates to talk about what's next. With a nostalgic past comes a very concerning future as Gates began talking about his predictions for the next 40 years of technology. Up next, the 40-year-long friendship between PC Magazine and Bill Gates. With fresh ideas about where we're headed, Bill Gates had a lot to say about the upcoming 4 decades and where it could take us. When Wendy asked about his thoughts on the first IBM PC, Bill Gates talked about the first few goals he had set when it all started. The revolutionary concept of software as an amazing tool was definitely the idea that Microsoft was based on, but they knew they needed miracle advances in chips to build the software they dreamed of. Another goal, which seems pretty basic now, was information at our fingertips. Yes, we've come a long way now, and Gates agrees as he talks about the world going way beyond the original dream of, well, phones and sensors. And did you know that Gates was a little bit too interested in the first magazine that featured his favorite invention? That's right, the billionaire was set on buying PC Magazine back in the day, and definitely regrets not buying it. But what developed the interest in the first place? Well, as Gates said, computers today are so mainstream, and back in the day, they were merely a few nerdy hobbyists who were passionate about technology and were true believers in personal computers. And PC Magazine seemed to help bridge the gap between those passionate hobbyists and the much larger audience looking for usable and, of course, accessible computers, basically jumping from a niche to changing the world. And yes, the past 40 years were a roller coaster, but what's next? Well, here's what Bill Gates has to say. The combination of software and chips is seen in so many forms today, and the most powerful ones are sitting right in our pockets. Yes, our ever so precious smartphones. But we also got TV sets, even the ones in our cars, and it's not long before we get glasses with augmented reality that will soon become a part of normal life. And of course, let's not forget the robots waiting for us in the future, but they're probably going to be more than some basic task repeaters on production lines. Bill Gates really believes in the power of chips as they get more powerful. It seems like the sky is really the limit here. He's pretty excited about the road ahead as the AI software algorithms become more sophisticated, and a hint at the future where we can create personal agents that can help us get a bunch of tasks done, from simple reading to even providing advice on scientific discovery. Pretty exhilarating if you ask us. When asked about the greatest technological challenge in the next 4 decades, Bill Gates definitely talked about climate change, which, yes, is definitely the biggest issue we have right now. But he also pointed out other challenges ahead of us that will require innovation and technology to overcome. And of course, while political polarization is another huge challenge, Gates seems worried about discussing the urgency to minimize wars and violence. And of course, a new tech tool can't fix that, but it's all about information. Technology has been making some great strides in artificial intelligence, which according to Gates has the potential to do good in the world. However, we also need to be cautious and make sure it's developed the right way and used for the right things. And here, education is crucial. Our next generation needs to be more aware of societal societal problems, develop brilliant minds with ideas, and be prepared for the future that's ahead of us. As the man who dedicated his life to Microsoft and technology leaves the industry and moves towards philanthropy, he still can't completely let go. Bill Gates discussed his involvement in the latest product plans and works towards digital currency and other challenges. But that's not all. Gates loves to explore climate science and biology in his philanthropy work. Learning is one of the things I love the most, and I'm lucky that my job requires it, says Bill Gates as he discusses the possibility of a cure for HIV and other life-threatening diseases, hinting toward a better and more digitized future for the healthcare industry. And in some other related news, let's move on to what everyone else had to say about Bill Gates' interview. Honestly, many at first couldn't stop reminiscing about the simpler times when we couldn't really fathom the vastness of the internet. It definitely is interesting how technology has improved everything but human behavior. If anything, it's shown how humans are willing to leverage technology to exploit human failures. But while some agreed, others wondered if we'd be able to control robots the same way and use them to our advantage. However, many argue that robots will be the ones in control as they dominate our planet and create a new, stronger generation of artificial intelligence. Honestly, it could very well go either way. Up next, Bill Gates' chilling COVID warning. Bill Gates stresses the need to make the right investments if we don't want to face another pandemic in the near future. And what investments is he talking about? The healthcare industry. But think about it, he's not wrong. We really need to build a stronger healthcare system that can tackle the fatal challenges that we failed to do in 2020. Bill Gates stresses the risk of another variant leading to an even more transmissive and possibly more fatal pandemic, probably the worst of them all. Are we ready for it? Or the bigger question, maybe, can we really afford to face another pandemic? Moving on. Why is Bill Gates selling his stocks? It really is the worst economic crisis when even the richest people in the world start selling their assets. Bill Gates is expecting an increase in the global inflation-related issues associated with almost every other government in the world, and the US is no exception. And it's not just about the governments, but also virtual economies. Think about the cryptocurrency crisis. It looks like we're not that far from an economic shutdown, and Bill Gates, while preparing himself, warns us about the future ahead of us. That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on the next 40 years in technology? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.